Previously on a video, YouTube banished to the Shadow Realm.
I mean, that's what I've done with all this junk here. If I was concerned with how other people online were perceiving me, I mean, I wouldn't have made a cell-shaded M3. I wouldn't have bought two S4s. Oh, timeout. Quick channel update. I bought a second S4. So, content's coming for that soon because the wagon S4 needs control arms and the sedan S4 needs everything. Alright, I'm back and working on a little bit of a side quest. So this is what used to be my best friend's S4 and I actually bought it from him. So I'm going to try to see what's wrong with it. He said it had a water leak. This car has always had weird electrical issues.
VW stuff.
VW. But try to figure that out and see if we can get another daily going, because when it snows, my wife's Beetle probably is not going to cut it. So hopefully we can have two S4s. Does that make it an S8? I don't know.
Much later.
Alright, I'm back. So, plan is I'm going to try to get the main harness pulled out of this car. If I'm going to be able to, I don't know, but I did purchase a replacement harness from another used car. This car has all types of issues, like when you start it, every engine-related light comes on, but I know it's a wiring issue first, and then we can kind of look at what's wrong with it mechanically. And it's not just me saying that, but all the receipts say that this car's main harness needs to be swapped out. So I'm going to try to get this harness out of here. I don't know that we'll be successful at doing it today, but we'll see what happens and kind of go from there. Alright, y'all, so this job actually took me kind of a really long time to do. I think it was like 13 hours of filming. So I'm going to do a little bit of a voiceover because nobody really just wants to watch a silent video of me sticking my butt in the camera for 13 hours over the course of 3 days. So first of all, I guess we should really talk about what this car is. This is a 2007 and a half. Yes, Volkswagen's weird. They do half years. It drives me crazy. So the 2007 and a half model year cars, but only on the manual transmission cars, got a new center differential. And this new center differential actually changes the static torque split. So 60% of the power is going to the rear, 40% to the front, and it gives the car more of a rear-wheel drive bias. And so the first thing that I'm working on here is getting into the E-box, as they would call it with BMW, or the box where the ECU lives. And as you can see, I found my first bonus of purchasing this car. This car has a JHM ECU. So JHM actually doesn't bench flash ECUs anymore. As you can see, this one was done way back in 2012. So at that point in time, you had to take your ECU out and mail it to them, and then they would flash it and then mail it back to you. I reached out to JHM to see if there's any advantage to upgrading to their newer ECUs, and they said not really. The tune is pretty much the same. And so that's actually kind of a big advantage because I was planning to get a tune on this car. My other S4 has a tune from Jackal Motorsports, and that tune is phenomenal. So, controversial statement coming up. I don't think just adding a whole bunch of power to a tune makes it better. It doesn't really make sense to me to have this super ultra hard hitting tune that has no drivability. And that's kind of what blew me away on the Jackal Motorsports tune, is that the drivability is really, really good. It's actually better than the car was stock. But now that I know this car has a JHM tune, I probably won't do that for a while. And if you guys are interested, what I would like to do is make kind of like a comparison video between the two different tunes. Now, it's not going to be like a performance comparison video because, well, the two cars have dramatically different mods on them and they weigh dramatically different. It would be more so from the perspective of a daily driver and what it's like to live with both of these tunes. But truthfully, if you guys aren't really interested in that, I'm probably not going to make that video, because I'm not going to lie to you guys right now. I'm kind of over making videos that take 50 to 60 hours to make, and then launching them on YouTube and then getting a whole like 3 hours of watch time back. I mean, it's just kind of a terrible use of my time for somebody who works full time and has 2 jobs. It just doesn't make sense to do that all the time. But if you guys want it, I'll do it. Now, what you guys have probably seen me doing on screen a lot is like bringing out the old harness and holding it up and comparing it. I feel like that's kind of an important thing to do, because at the end of the day, I'm not a professional. I'm not a tech. I'm not a mechanic. I didn't go to school for any of this silliness that's going on. I'm a nurse. So like all of this that I have figured out how to do is just trial and error and just my own experience. And so, speaking of trial and error, what I've often learned is to figure out how something works before you break something. And seeing how when I called the dealership for a quote on one of these harnesses, they gave me a quote of $3,500. I'm not looking to break anything more on this car.
The next day.
So kind of like my other video last month that I launched and YouTube sent it straight to the Shadow Realm, last month was just a rough month for me on YouTube. I don't understand what happened. I kind of want to start showing and being transparent as to how much it costs me to do all of these different projects on all of my cars. I'm not like hitting out against anybody specifically, but I feel like a lot of the times with car media, people aren't very transparent about how much it costs them to do things. And I think that can be bad, because we want people to get into the hobby. And if they don't really know exactly how much it's going to cost them to do something, they're probably not going to do it. And then on the other side of that, sometimes when people do show products and videos, they're always just showing the most expensive way of doing something because they have a brand sponsorship or whatever. I mean, that's not me. Nobody sponsors this channel. Nobody wants to sponsor this channel. All of this is done with my own money, so I always find a way to do this. I'm not going to say in the cheapest way possible, because I don't think you should do things the cheapest way possible, but I find the most price-efficient way of going about my project. And so I want to be able to show the price and then also show the products that I'm using, so that if you want to kind of do the same thing, you can kind of have a starting point to work on your project. Now, this replacement harness I'm working with, I got from a dude that I trade S4 parts with all the time. He had like 4 of them, and he had this one that was kind of busted a little bit, but had all the parts that I needed, and he ended up charging me $240 for it. Now, you guys might think that sounds like a lot, but I called the Volkswagen dealership for a quote on a entirely new harness, and they quoted me like $3,500. It was ridiculous. And when this car was in Colorado, Christian actually took it to a shop, and they gave him a quote of $13,000 to fix the wiring harness on this car. So if I'm able to fix this car for $240, and it seems like by the time it's all done was like 15 hours of work, I'm gonna call that a win. I mean, a win is a win. Now, at this point, I think I had identified what the problem was, but what I had not identified was that the GoPro was not recording audio, so you're still going to get me doing a voiceover. But basically, what I was saying at this point was that I had pulled half of the harness out, and I had pulled the entire part of the harness that was behind the engine, and all of the wiring connections behind the engine were either torn off, or it looks like they were destroyed by mice. So I've gone back and forth in between the other harnesses, and I was trying to figure out what the best decision to do was. And so what I decided on was I was going to remove the wiring sections from the other harness, because the used harness I bought had a whole bunch of clips that were broken as well. And what I would have really needed to do was get both harnesses out and then depin my original harness from this car, and then put those clips on the replacement harness, and then put that back in. That's really tedious, and at this point I'm probably 10 hours into the job and I only have half the harness out. So what I decided to do was to identify which portions of the harness were missing on my original harness, and then remove them from my replacement harness, and then swap them over using solder seal connections to basically build a repaired harness. The only problem is that the coolant temp sensor, which ironically you saw in the beginning of the video, is the first warning that comes up on the dashboard. That clip is broken on my replacement harness. So what I decided to do was to cut the pigtail off of the replacement harness, because the plug is actually still on my car, sticking out of the temp sensor. There's just no wires to it. So I decided to depin that and then repin it onto the pigtail and then solder seal that into the harness. I also identified why the reverse lights don't work on this car, and it's because that entire pigtail is just gone. And so that is also something I'm going to salvage from the replacement harness. Now those scissors I just held up to the camera, those are called trauma shears. I work in the medical field. We use these special scissors when we cut off clothes from somebody when they come in from a car wreck or whatever. But like they have a rounded tip so that you're not like cutting the person's skin. And I find them super helpful for working on wiring harnesses. So I will drop a link for those in the descriptions. I have a whole bunch of different sizes, but they're nice because you can slide that rounded tip into the sheathing on the wiring harness and be able to avoid getting behind some wires and then slowly unpeel the wiring harness. And so in terms of our price check-in, so I bought this car for $2,000, but plot twist, my best friend, he used to live here in Michigan, but now he lives in Colorado. So I had to get that car from Colorado up here. Now, I kind of lied in that video when I said I just bought another S4. That's some YouTube clickbait because I actually bought this car before I started the YouTube channel. I bought this car back in January, and in that video when I say I just bought an S4, I had just had it shipped up here. So it had stayed down in Colorado for almost 10 months after I bought it. So to ship this car, my friends at Economy Auto went through their broker, and we got this car up here for $775, taxes, fees, all that included. So that kind of raises the obvious question of why would I decide to go buy another S4? Those of you who know me personally, and if you guys kind of want a story time episode, I can talk about it, but I've had a lot of bad experiences when I first bought my S4. It was just a terrible experience when I first got into that car. So that kind of raises the obvious question of why would I decide to go get another B7 S4 if I had such a bad experience with this first one? And then on top of that, this second car has all these stacks of receipts and quotes that total up to like almost $20,000 needed to repair it. And then if you look these cars up online, people talk about how problematic they are. They talk about how slow they are. People talk about they're not even that cool. So what's the purpose of it? Why would I get another one of these? Well, to kind of cross some of these things off, for one, I really don't care about how fast it is. These cars are really fun to me. Like, I have a whole lot of fun driving my S4, so I could really care less about if your B8 is faster than my car. I'm sure it is. So what? Like, I like V8 noises. Get over it. And then secondly, if people don't think these cars are cool, I don't really care. So if you don't think my car is cool, like, I really don't care because I have an E46 M3, two B7 S4s, a E60 with an N54 that's full bolt-on, an E34 that's getting an LS swap, and a Volkswagen Beetle convertible. Like, it really doesn't matter to me if people think I have cool cars because I know I have cool cars. And that's all that matters, is as long as you like the cars in your own garage. And I do. So it really doesn't matter to me if people like my car at the car meet. It's just not a thing that matters to me. So a lot of the times when automotive car YouTubers buy cars, the big reason why they're doing it is purely for attention. Now, I'm not trying to like name names or call anybody out. It's just the name of the game. If you're chasing the algorithm and a certain car is popular in the community, it does you well to have that car. That's not why I buy cars though. Yes, I do have a YouTube channel, and yes, I would love it if you watch my content, but I'm not really at the phase where I feel like I need to buy things just so that you guys watch my content. I'm buying stuff because I like it and it has personal value to me. And when I say it has personal value to me, that's pretty much why I've bought or keep most of the cars that I do. I am very much the sentimental car owner. I remember when my best friend bought this car, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I remember it just clear as day. I had just got home from work one day, and I was laying in bed, and he calls me, and he's all like, he says, "Hey bro, are you home right now?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And he goes, "Can you hear it?" And through the bedroom wall, all I hear is down the street. It was just wild. And like after the first ride in that car, I had never thought about wanting a Volkswagen product, but like in that moment I was hooked. and then winter came and it snowed, and then that car went to a completely different level. We've had so much fun in this car. I remember when we put the head unit on, we put this carbon fiber spoiler on. There's just so many memories that we made together in this car. So when it kind of sounded like Christian was coming to the end of his run with this car, but there's still, you know, life left in it, I kind of had to. I kind of had to. Because, like, in my mind, this car is kind of the story of our friendship. And I think that's kind of cool. So, this car is going to be on the channel for, I don't know, as long as it needs to be. And we're going to keep doing cool stuff with it. So, in terms of timelines, I'm not going to do that to myself because things have been kind of rough over the last month. I blew a tire on the E60 and that caused all types of damage. And then my wife's Beetle got rear-ended, which means, yes, that's the third time in 6 months somebody has rear-ended our car and caused thousands of dollars of damage. And then my wagon S4, the starter, went out. So, my life has been kind of hectic over the last month or so. I'm just not going to do timelines because every plan that I've made recently has fallen through, but we'll get there. We'll survive. But at this point in the video, it's kind of time to stop being sentimental and to see, did all of this work actually amount to something?
The next day.
All right, so, I mean, I did it. Yeah, so I don't know what else to say. Pretty much everybody said that this car wasn't fixable if I didn't put in thousands of dollars of work into it, or even that shop in Colorado that said it would take over $10,000, but here we are, $240 in, and we got it running. Now, I was an idiot and I didn't show you the dashboard in that exact moment because I was too busy texting my best friend, calling my dad, calling my wife, because, like, I fixed it. Everybody said this car was unfixable, but I fixed it, and I'm really proud of myself. And so, what's next for this car? The exhaust for this car is disconnected, like, right under the firewall and is going to drive me to commit a crime. Like, oh my god, it's so annoying. So, I need to reconnect the exhaust. The clamps from the mid pipes to the second cats has disconnected. So I just need to borrow Economy Auto's lift to put it back together. I probably won't film that. I don't like filming in other people's property, and I don't like filming when other people are around that it's not like a public space. That just doesn't like feel fair to me. And so that kind of will be the next thing. If you follow me on Patreon, there'll probably be a Patreon post of when the exhaust is fully put back together. But for now, the plan is to just kind of drive it and see what else is wrong with it. Because I'm sure I'm going to go for my first drive, and then you're going to see on Astrum's YouTube channel that a Audi S4 was struck by a meteorite, and this is what the science behind it is, or something stupid like that. But I just kind of want to figure out what is wrong with the car, and then after that we can get to the fun part and start doing more mods to this car. And actually mods to both cars, because I already kind of have the second video plotted out. I'm not going to give up the plot yet, but the second video involves both S4s, so we will see that hopefully pretty soon. for those of you guys who are still here at the end of this video, I really appreciate you guys. Like, you guys have no idea. Very, very, very few people watch my videos. Like, I appreciate you guys so much. Like, it's just wild to me that you guys like choose to watch my videos, and like it really means a lot. Like, I know most people when they make YouTube, they have the impression or the goal of getting famous, getting rich, having a Lamborghini or something like that. And that's not really my goal. I'm doing this because at the end of the day, when I get old and crusty and, you know, 80 years old, I want to look back at my YouTube channel and say, yeah, I did some pretty cool stuff and I made some pretty cool videos, and I want to be proud of myself. And the fact that you guys are willing to come along on this ride, that just blows my mind. And especially you guys who are at this point in the video, because statistically, there aren't a lot of you. Of my 2,500 subscribers, only like less than 2% of you guys actually watch the videos. And then of that 2%, less than 10% of you guys actually finish videos. And while it may not seem like this counts for a lot, because my channel is not monetized, I don't get any type of benefit from you guys watching my video to the end. All it really does for me is it kind of makes me feel good. You know, and it feels cool that I'm not just doing cool car stuff in my own little world, but somebody out there found my video entertaining, or they laughed, or they learned something. And it's something else to think that a channel that I made for myself is actually having an impact on other people's lives. And like that's really cool. That is just really cool to me. And so, yeah, I don't know what else to say. So I've already talked like way too much. So I guess I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, homies.